Thanks so much for joining book club today. Don't forget to like and subscribe and get ready to hear from some doulas who know squat.
Something else your story reminded me of that she talks about in this book, in how your client approached her birth, was manifesting what she wanted to happen. She went into it with fear, and she went into it thinking this, and this is going to happen. And it's not her fault, but it does bring it into light. Does that make sense? Like, I know it's not her fault, but we're talking about manifesting what you want to happen, envisioning it, going into it with, yes, I know I'm going to have to fight for this, but this is what I want, and I'm going to fight for it. I'm not going to be fearful of what you're going to do to me or force me to do. You know, I'm going to take control of my experience. And part of that, again, is young, first-time mom, not knowing and understanding that this is something you can do. You can go in and say, hey, this is the story I want to be told. This is how I want my story to be told. These are the steps I'm okay with. And I'm going to listen to what your recommendations are. I'm going to discuss them, and I'm going to really think about them before we take action.
That was one of the
And then,
I mean,
oh, yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
all three of us at the same time. It's a great topic. We all have a lot to say about it. I've had a few moms of color actually have a binder that they want me to go over with them before they go into their birth space. And the binder is if they pass. And it has all of the instructions on what to do with their baby and their body and all of these things. So when they're going in, they're actually, you know, we talk a lot about manifesting like you're talking about, but it's very difficult to move past into manifesting this ideal birth situation when you're carrying a binder designed for this are the instructions for if I die in birth.
Absolutely. I was just going to say that is a heartbreaking thought.
Even physically have that.
I actually teach mine on that. Like, I'm like, you have create his estate plan. Like, you have to. Like, it's mandatory because you do have to let them know, like, what do you want them to do with your baby? Is, you know, where's dad stand in this? It will prolong him taking baby home if there's not clear instructions. So, yeah, I go through that in my prenatals, specifically for moms of color, because that has been an issue in other states. I have not had that firsthand, but I've seen like documentaries where that was an issue, where they wouldn't let dad leave with the baby. And they want to go through the social services route of, like, you know, getting the baby, making sure that this is the father. And then when you really
prove this is dad.
Yeah, when you think about it, they don't even acknowledge dads a lot of time in the space. So that shows the credibility that dad has to be like, let me go ahead and take my baby home. Excuse me? We don't even know if you're really dad. You know what I mean? Like, we're doing all the blood work on mom. We're asking mom her insurance. We're asking mom, like, all the things she fills out the birth certificate. You know what I mean? Like, it's mom. And so, yeah, dads are just kind of like along for the ride to them. And yeah. It's
so it's a very difficult place to get to, even, you know, where when we're talking about with birth plans or, you know, birth intentions, we say we've got plan A, which is your ideal perfect birth situation, which you absolutely can achieve. And there's plan B, which is we need to make some decisions about making some interventions, and then plan C, which is C-section. And then, you know, a lot of people, they've got plan D, which is I didn't make it. And when you have all of these plans and then you try to manifest plan A, sometimes the other plans can get into your head, but you need the other plans because they do happen. And what a chaotic situation to be in.
It is.
You know, and it's very calming. I've had it be very calming for my clients when they're facing these interventions where you say, hey, plan A didn't work out, but this is still the plan.
Mhm.
This is not, we're not on plan anymore. This is your plan still. You know, we're just veering off of it, and then we're gonna get right back. We're dipping into plan B a little bit, and now let's get back on plan A as much as we can. But it's a
Just make a
balance.
little change.
It needs a lot of trust and connection. You know, as a doula, if you are one, that's one of your big jobs. That's, man, it's not on you. Like, you can't make a person do it, but having the skill to help walk them through and an awareness that it's something that needs to happen, man, that's pretty central. So that was my big, like, as I
So
was
that's almost taking us,
manifestation thing that just kept, I was like, you know, that's so hard
but
for people though.
that pretty much takes us into the second question of fear clearing.
Yes.
Thank you,
fear
Kristen, for
clearing.
that.
I love fear clearing.
Um,
I have to do it.
like what, ways to clear fear. Like I know, in the book, she's mentioning about like, knowledge for those who have birthed gently, which again, staying away from those fear-based videos. And like you just talked about, manifesting, envisioning, all of those are going to be like super important to be able to clear some of the fear and release those hormones. Mother-minded positioning and provider support, where the doulas can come into play, and also just giving them that knowledge of positioning initially in those prenatals of like, I know with you, Brittney, doing really good with the yoga. So when, they need some relaxation techniques, not just positioning, yoga is a very good way to kind of get the both and the best of both worlds. And then preparation for the childbirth, insisting on them doing a childbirth class, hiring a doula, to like bring in more of those ways that they can clear some fear, and then letting them know, which sounded really huge in the book, of feeling alone, just like, and I think I kind of talked about that a little bit in like that whole cesarean, like you feel alone, like no one else in the room had a cesarean at that time, you know what I mean, like it was just you, and it's a lonely feeling, like, and you try to regroup and think about other things, but at the end of the day, no one's walking that journey at the same time. And that makes a huge difference in your mind frame of like, yeah, I have other mom friends, but maybe they didn't have a cesarean. And so, maybe they had their babies a week ago or they're having the week after, but if they didn't experience exactly what I experienced when I experienced it, I still feel alone in that thought process. So, your
Yeah.
thoughts?
Yeah, especially with infant loss. And they don't
Yeah.
with education
Yeah.
class having our babies
Yeah,
together.
that's huge.
That's so isolating. And it's an isolating time. People who go through it don't tend to want to go to support group classes right away. They, rarely even reach out to speak to therapists about it one-on-one. And that in itself is very important, but it's not community. And a lot of us who are working in the birth field, we've had traumatic births of our own, but not necessarily loss. So I've had 2 lost clients myself, and I've noticed just the isolation, like you're talking about afterward, of, I don't know, anyone else that this has happened to that's talking about it. It's crazy how many people that happens, and then it turns out there are other people in their family that have experience that they can.
I've had a client who had a past loss experience, and she didn't even know a family member had a loss until she mentioned her loss. And then they opened up to her about their loss. So unless you're willing to talk about it, no one else is going to talk about it to you, with you.
I learned about it in her grandma's obituary.
Yeah.
She experienced a loss, and then later she saw in her
Wow.
obituary that she was survived by 8 of her 9 children. My client said she only had 8 children. She said no, she actually had a 9th, but the baby was born too early and didn't live very long. And she's like,
Yeah.
It's on top. I mean, even in my family, it's like, it's not discussed. And like, with mine, I just kind of, I was just like, okay, I mean, like it just wasn't like, and they weren't born yet, which obviously is a whole nother feeling because you carried the baby now full term, and
Mhm.
then you have that demise. But like just having enough time where it started to form into an actual fetus, and you're like, okay, like that was growing into a baby. Like you just don't talk like, that's not, I think a part of that too is just like, I don't want to bring people down or have people feel sorry. I just want them to kind of empathize and like open discussion about it. But people just, they're going to either do the, oh my God, I'm so sorry for, and then you're feeling worse now because you're like, yeah, I was coping, but now I'm like touched by your emotions. So now I'm all like a mess. Or they're going to be like too passive, and they're just kind of like, oh, well, it just wasn't meant to be. And then it's like, well, I thought you
Yeah.
would give me a little bit more.
It's hard
Yeah,
to know how to
like,
respond to
separate
people
that.
sometimes,
It is.
It's hard.
Is.
It's hard to know how to respond. Some people are looking for a different response, and
Mm-hmm.
you're like, this is my response. I'm sorry, it's not what you were looking for.
No, I
I'm
mean, I
sorry,
just
you're
think people
making
don't
me
open up for
cry.
that. Like they just don't know what response to expect, or it might not be what they expected. And so they're like, I'm just not going to talk about
Yeah. Well, and then, you have that situation in the hospital where you have staff who they don't care. And then you have some staff who they're the ones you remember being that support and being that person who you could lean on, but they're few and far between. A lot of them, this is just my day job. This is just what I do. I have
it.
so many clients who you go in and, you can tell it's just a job to that nurse,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
male or female nurse. It's just a
You can
job to
tell.
them. It's the job to the OB or whomever the provider is. It's not, we're here to support you and to make sure you have a good outcome, whatever that outcome happens to be. It's, you're just a number, you're just a name in a book, you know?
Yep.
And then
You
you have
checked in
those
and
who,
check out time is this time.
yep. And then you have those who pour their heart and soul into this patient, and you can tell they're here because they really care about this person, but they don't get paid enough. So some of them are just like,
Yeah. So
I
true.
used to care,
This
you
is
know.
true.
Some of them, I used to care. This is the feeling that you get from them. You can tell they used to care, but
Yeah. Yep.
we don't
They've
help
kind of hit
them.
that bell curve.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they get knocked down so many times, by that stepping out of the lines that you were talking about earlier. They're knocked down, they're threatened with their jobs. So now, okay, I can't care as
Yep.
much. I can't listen to my patient as much. I can't help them bring to life their envisionment or what they're wanting, because I'm going to lose my job if
Yeah.
something happens.
Exactly. Yep.
And
Yep.
that goes for nurse, that goes for midwife, that goes for OB, that goes for any person in the hospital helping or providing
Not for
support, the
doulas.
anesthesiologist. What?
So hopefully not for doulas.
Yeah.
I hope not. But I mean,
know.
we're not supposed to
Well,
be.
word on the street is some doulas say that doulas are not advocates. So there's that
Doula is
dilemma also.
undefined.
Well, you're talking
So
about compassion
there's that
fatigue.
portion. So you may
Yeah.
have some that go into the hospital space that feel like your goals were this was your decision, but things have changed and it's not for me to go back and like I tend to do and be like, remember what we talked about? Did you still want? No? Okay. I just want you to be sure and you do remember what we talked about and the pros and cons. Okay. I just making sure as long as But there's some dudes that don't do that. They feel like I'm not an advocate. So the decisions are changing or things are being made and it's okay because you said yes. So let's go on with that. Like they're not doing that.
I was taught that, but I am incapable of
I
implementing.
can't do
But
that
that's why
either.
she has some good questions in there to ask for your and
Yeah.
which
I can't do that either.
to ask certain questions to your OB, ask certain questions to your doula. Well,
Mhm.
you'll know if that's your vibe. Like, is this the doula for me? She answered that question a different way that I didn't
Yeah.
like, so that's not the doula.
Yeah.
That's not the doula
Not
for me.
every
I have
every
clients sometimes who
different cup
are,
of tea. you know?
They're all different. Yeah.
Yeah, like you, me, and me, we are all
Mhm.
three really fantastic doulas. We're all three very different, you know?
Very different.
They're very
Well-
different personality types, very different. But a lot of our clients all have the same goals. And a lot of there's a lot of shared, like I could back up for y'all, you could back up for me, but who
Mhm.
we are and how that
Yeah.
comes out in our care, we're very different people. And we've each trained very similar people and very different people.
Mhm.
So those questions, when you're going through your interviewing, it's not necessarily figuring out even who's a better doula, it's who's your doula,
Exactly.
You're
Yep.
essentially interviewing a part-time sister,
Yep.
a rented auntie, essentially.
A birth best friend. Like
Yeah, a best friend. I love it.
a birth best friend. That's what I call
Yeah.
myself, birth best friend.
Well,
Like I will be your best friend for the next couple of months until and
Yeah.
then probably after the baby is born for some time too. We'll be like best buds. We'll be just like this. But that's essential because
Yeah.
what do you do with your best friend? You trust them, you tell them things, you know what I mean? Like things you probably wouldn't divulge to other people. And yeah, it's like I need to know all the nitty gritty. Tell me all the stuff I need to know. Because this helps
Tell
me
me
better
it, yeah.
support you. The more I know, the better we'll be. And when we get into a certain area, just like a best friend will be like, no, I don't think this is space for you. Like I know how you are, so let's just let's just go.
Well,
It's the same in the birth space.
yeah. Well, it's easier to tell someone or just say, "Hey, that wasn't what we talked about." If you mesh, you know, if
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you already have that rapport built up and you already have that
Mhm.
communication base set up. I think we're totally off topic now, guys.
Well, I actually was gonna say that's fear clearing.
That
Have
is,
a
that's
It
true.
is.
person that you trust that has already established that's trauma informed
Mhm.
fear clearing,
Yes, it is.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
And
Because you do have people who get that too, that doula. They're like, I'm concerned that she might get upset or she might pop off. Like you shouldn't have that. That again, that's that fear of like, I don't know what my doula would do in a situation. No, you should know. You should feel secure in that. Oh, she's going to maintain her professionalism. Or maybe I am the type that want my doula to pop off. So then I'm like, oh, she's totally going to handle this because
Yeah.
it's no way they're going to come here and talk to me and my doula not say anything. Like you said, fear clearing, matching up. Who's your vibe? Who do you
Mhm.
want? Do you want your doula to be like, let's just keep the calm and, and we're not going to
Yeah.
really ruffle feathers? Or do you want the feather ruffler? Like,
yeah,
Go with you two if you want the feather ruffler. Go with me if you want the questions and the calm.
I keep it calm until it's not the priority anymore. I will up until we're like the very next thing that's about to happen is my client's rights are about to be violated or they're currently being violated. I'm not super worried about keeping peace in the room anymore.
yeah.
Like
They've
if
already
there's a
disrupted the peace.
non-consensual cervical check happening right now, I'm not like, hey, can we discuss whether or not I'm like, she removed consent, please remove your hands. And I
Yeah.
that makes you angry because you're
She
currently
said to stop.
rights.
Yeah, exactly. She said no, and no means
She
no.
said no.
She said
She
no.
said no. I'm gonna need you to stop that
Yep.
now.
Yep. No means no.
So-
Ready for this?
So we have about what 6 more minutes. So the last part, are we
almost-
going to just like chapter 4?
Well, we need to talk about the roots of midwifery. And there's like a whole bunch in chapter 3 that was like nitty gritty.
I can keep going.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. We could probably stop right at chapter 3 and do chapter 4 another day.